Hello, everyone out there. I think we're live at the moment. What is missing right now is Max. We very much hope to have Max with us. He's over in Peru, as many of you realize. Not quite deep as dark as Peru, but too deep for us to connect to at the moment. We were talking with him for a few minutes. Unfortunately, he faded in and out, and now he's faded from sight. But Matt, who's actually hosting the site for us this evening, he's going to keep an eye on Max's availability, and of course we'll have him with us just as soon as we can. So please bear with us. If he is in Peru, then it's a little bit awkward sometimes to get a good internet signal. Okay. So it's you out there and me at the moment, and I'll take my glasses off. There you are. Then I can actually see what's going on a little bit better. So I think first of all, welcome and thank you very much for coming along. It's really with you in this format, and I do hope that we're going to be making much more use of the Hangout. We can have our meetings here. I've also suggested that we start to have a clinic where we can together look at some of the issues that are being raised. A number of people have been putting issues of concern that they've discovered in their groups and in their neighborhoods. And we were thinking that it would be really good to invite you in to the Hangouts to talk a little bit more about these particular concerns. And I'm going to try and give 2 or 3 examples of this as well. And really looking for ways that we can move forward that may be helpful in one area, could also be very helpful in others as well. So for instance, we have David up in the north of England. He's noticed through an advert that he saw on the TV something that he felt was quite uncomfortable, and that was an advert from a big supermarket chain, Tesco's I think in this case, really encouraging people to return perishable goods. I think in this case it was a melon. Return perishable goods to the shop and exchange it for something else. So on the face of it, this is a kind of service, of course, that the supermarket chains are offering, or in this case Tesco. But underneath it, where does the returned food go to? And this in turn made David really ask the question of what indeed is happening to all the waste that supermarkets are creating. And he's taken a deeper look at this issue, and with a number of others on the site as well, and indeed in his group where he's living. And we're discovering that there's something rather interesting happening with a company, I think it's called FairShare, who are essentially a waste management company who appear to be selling the food to charities, and the supermarket itself is claiming that their food is going to charities. So there's a little bit of disparity there, and David is suggesting that those who feel concerned about the amount of food waste, and it is a colossal amount per year in terms of tons. I'm not sure if I've got the figures right, but something like 40 to 50,000 tons a year. I think that's probably per chain, if not per supermarket. Anyway, mountains and mountains of perishable food going to waste. Where's it going? How's it being disposed of? And really, what's the system perhaps that's being put in place there to provide food for charities? Because this really is questionable as well. In this case, what David is suggesting is that either as a group, a few of us, a Full Circle Project, or those in his area, and indeed those of you who are also can see this type of food management happening in your local, you can go in and actually just ask some of the people in the shop or the managers there, what's actually happening with the waste. Are they linked to the Fair Share company or something similar? Try and discover what's happening to the produce that's not sold, and see if we can discover any layer of deceit there that's shown on the public face, but behind the scenes something else is happening. And really, I think this is quite an interesting little project, because if nothing else, it's the principle of how we can go about uncovering some of the real facts, not necessarily just believing what we're told. Courage, if you like, to go and either go directly to the supermarket and ask some simple questions about what happens to the perishable produce, or emailing or phoning, but just literally becoming, I think, I don't know what you think, but it's often the case that just taking the step, literally getting up out of the chair, going out of the door, and actually getting engaged and doing something about an issue that concerns you. This very often can lead to all sorts of connections and revelations that you wouldn't necessarily have realized had you not actually have done this. So that's what I'd like to put forward on the table. And with that in mind, the next hangout that we have, we'll be inviting David along. He's got lots more facts that he's investigating, and he can probably then present this idea a lot better than I can here. And in the meantime, anyone that would like to just do a little bit of research and find out what's happening on the food produce in their area and could contribute some of their findings, that would be really helpful. And again, just see what collaborative action can do. That's one aspect. Then we were also wanting to address some of the prime questions that we're getting either via or in the chat room or on the collaborate section of the Full Circle Project website. And I think we selected a few of these questions that seem really to be common. And one of the most common questions is, how do I get more people involved? How do I get more people either signed up to the website, or how do I get more people involved in the circle that I've created? It's a good question. It depends very much on, I think, on where you are and what your circle of friends and associates is. One thing that certainly, following a conversation I had with Christopher Gardner, who we managed to interview, is that he actually doesn't approach people. He waits for them to approach him. And I think sometimes that's very good, at least to keep in mind, that we don't try and impose too much on people unless they're actually unless they're open to listen. Sometimes this perspective is kind of overlooked because we can be very enthusiastic and you know, very concerned about trying to wake people up, trying to get their attention, and in some circumstances that can obviously work, but I think it's a dynamic to play with, really, and not be too insistent. That often seems to backfire, and this is really a recipe for loss of energy and also for frustration. So we don't want either of those two things. The other thing, as we were always saying, always suggesting, go and find perhaps groups that are already formed in the area, in the location that you live. May not be necessarily associated with a lot of the topics that we're often looking at, but nonetheless, they're groups of people who take the time to come together. Even that alone is quite worth some consideration when time is something that very few people have or or can find or prepared to give to these events. But go and mingle, I suppose, is a good word. Go and find some relationships, talk to people, make the relationship one of building trust. You have this, really very little I think you can do to address the issues that we often feel are more pressing. So I think start there. I don't know if anyone else has got any suggestions. If I can just get into the chat room myself. At the moment I'm here in the Hangout, so let me see if I can just move into the chat room and have a look here and see if we've got any extra questions coming up to answer. Otherwise I will just move on. Okay, Max is okay. The conundrum of free will. The conundrum of free will question mark. That's quite a big question. And I'm determined sure if these are actually questions here for the Hangout or whether actually something that's on the chat room. It's on the other chat room. The conundrum of free will. Yeah, free will's interesting, isn't it? I was speaking with two people today actually on Skype. Much how I spend my time is really making connections in the background so that we can invite people along to the full circle to participate in whatever capacity they can. But free will was something that came up on 2 occasions just today with 2 really quite different perspectives on what that was. And at the same time, I found them both very thought-provoking. And I would have to go to explain those, but definitely worth considering exactly what free will is, and if indeed it's something that in a way prevents us from going through the pain and the suffering that's currently showing up on our planet. This is certainly something to question and look at, because we very often associate free will with sovereign selves and taking control of ourselves, but perhaps it's controlling us. But I think this is quite philosophical and I'd really like to see if we can run through some of the more practical topics that we've got here, and also just wait and see if we can also connect with Max at all. I'm sure he's trying to get through to us. Okay, other questions that I'd made a note of, suggestions really, were very much to do with the site itself and the way that the Collaborate page is being used. I know that there's often a number of really good posts. Most of them I think people are finding helpful and useful. What we're not seeing quite so much of until perhaps more recently is real collaboration. Funnily enough, I think it's been happening in the little chat box that Matt has provided in the last few weeks, and very much a more immediate exchange of ideas and very supportive comments coming through. And I've noticed that a lot of things have popped up. For instance, sharing recipes for making homemade shampoos and soaps. I mean, this is important too, that we're able to use less and less of chemical produce. Most of us are aware of that, I think, but actually being able to share these and post them, and these will eventually, if you tag them well, this is something that it's really worthwhile spending a few extra seconds to use the tagging device that Matt has provided there, because eventually this will be a way to locate all these different posts and information actually within the resource section itself, which we are trying to build up. It takes a little bit of time. Time is something that, yeah, that we're all a little bit stretched on, obviously, Matt in particular, because, you know, he has his job, he's set aside time for the Full Circle project and indeed for the COIO network, which is a fantastic way to bring more and more people on board. But we really, I'm just going to say it, that we really do need any any funding, any gifting that you can send our way will mean that Matt can take more time off. He's looking to get another day off, and really I can't say enough how hard he works to improve the site and put in different layers of the program um, that will just aid everything that we're doing here, and indeed incorporate a lot of the suggestions that all you members are making, because you have some great ideas and it just takes time to really incorporate this. But I will say that what Matt has been able to launch is a new layout for the Collaborate page. And this is really going to, I think, provide a different view of the posts that are put there. You can see that the layout gives you a much better overview. Things don't get so easily lost because you're not having to scroll down the wall. It's a different format that we've had before, and we think very much it will encourage less, let's say, less posting. It looks less like Facebook, fortunately, and now it looks as if we're laying out the posts almost like laying cards on the table, so that you can see and select and bookmark the things that are of particular interest to you. And I've been noticing that I reference a lot more easily, and I like very much this format. But again, do try it out and let us know what your feelings are about that, and any improvements, of course, that we can make. Still on that Collaborate, yeah, I'd really like to encourage as much thought as possible into how much you're posting at any one time. This again should be helped by the new format, so that there's enough room, as it were, to both post and to write more a little bit about the kind of things that you would like to work on together as a group. If you have anything that you might like guidelines or advice about, this is really, I think, where we'll achieve a much more coherent and make strides together. So the posts are good, but let's see if we can get a little bit more connection going on. At the same time, I'm aware that we're very often encouraging people to get off the site, and so I'm really quite certain, and I do get quite a bit of feedback, Max too, and the others involved with Full Circle Project, that there are really quite a lot of groups now who are formed. If this is the case, I'd really appreciate a little bit of feedback. I do have some, but it would be great to hear from you. So if you wanted to write anything either directly to me, or find a way to post that on the site. Again, we're looking at ways that you can post up some photos, and I'm sure that we'll eventually have an area on the site where all the different groups and communities can actually show or demonstrate what they're doing, because really this in turn will motivate and inspire others to do something similar. Okay, I'm just going to check on my notes here and see what else. Yes, this was a question also from Rach out there, I think down in Australia. She's probably fast asleep at the moment, so she'll be hearing this tomorrow, I imagine. But again, it's a common enough question, and it's to do with how to approach people so that she's not feeling too emotional or too doubtful about the sort of information that she's trying to transmit. Um, Again, I think this depends very much on how strongly you feel knowledgeable and aligned and convicted about what it is that you're trying to talk about. Um, if that's the case, if you are feeling doubtful, if you are feeling emotional, then it may try and find something else to talk about until with the other person, until you yourself are more relaxed about it. I hope that makes sense. But again, perhaps it's a way of not taking on all the time. This can be can really create quite a bit of resistance, and it doesn't really generate a very great rapport between you. But really, just come from the other person's point of view. Find out what their concerns are. Find out about their life. Find out about them as well, because essentially that's the point at which you will get people's attention, is when they is interested in them, because after all, this doesn't happen too much these days. I'm just going to check on some of these questions, because I know I'm not entirely alone here, although it feels a bit as if I'm just talking to myself. So, okay. We've got architect here who I'm going to bring up. Being in social non-conformity. Okay. Yes, architect there. Hi there, over in California. Had a really nice chat with you the other day, and architect has again voiced the suggestion that's on the minds of many, and this is the idea that we get involved in a day of non-compliance, at least as a demonstration, at least to show that we are aware of what's happening and that we don't consent, and that we want instead to do something different with our time and indeed our lives. A day of non-compliance may seem as if it would be ineffective. It may seem at first as if we would have very few numbers, even if we join up with other groups, which is what architect there, Miguel, is actually proposing, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. But I don't know, my personal feeling is that don't let this prevent you from doing what you feels right, and that really applies to anything that you might consider, because I'm not really sure that this is a numbers game. I think it's much more about what you can demonstrate, what you do. Don't forget, you know, one pebble in the pond will have a ripple effect. If you start something, if you initiate something, just be brave, be bold, have courage and do it. And when you do this and you do it with the right reasons, it will have an effect. It will attract others to you to participate. You'll attract attention, um, which is hard sometimes. You know, a lot of us are not happy in the limelight. I know I'm not, actually. I never have been. But because of what we're facing and because of what we see as being the right response, we're just compelled to do it. And I know you are as well. So the day of non-compliance that architects putting forward here, and again, I would like to invite Miguel, architect, onto the next hangout so that we can discuss this a little bit further, perhaps with a few other people as well. But in principle, it's a day where we can either stay at home, or even perhaps more attractive is the idea of meeting up in some nice place in nature that's in your location, meeting up with others who are connected to this event, and celebrating. Have a day of celebration. As architect himself was saying, have food, games, things which are free. Perhaps have a market where you can exchange things, gift things. Make it a day really to celebrate life. Be inventive, be creative. Have music. Whatever it is that you and your community can create there together. And I think, if I remember correctly, Architect was given a pamphlet in the street by someone appearing as a anonymous there with the mask from V for Vendetta, and a particular date, which I think at this stage I'm not going to mention, although you can probably imagine which one it is. A particular date was set, and I believe that this is a suggestion for a worldwide day of non-compliance. So here again, the Full Circle project and those associated through the Community Connector can present this as a way to be peacefully active in a way that at least demonstrates our reluctance, to put it mildly, to be engaged in a system which is not even slowly, but certainly surely destroying the very things that we hold dear. So that I'd really like your comments on. Let me just have a look through my extra eyes here and see if we have any comments about that suggestion that I could address here and now. But again, a view to bring this up at a later date, perhaps even next week. I'm not seeing any real questions about what we're talking about, so perhaps it isn't making much sense to people. But okay, no, I can't see anything at the moment that's directly linked to that suggestion. But really, just putting it out there for you to consider. You know, come up with ideas, come up with reasons perhaps why you feel it wouldn't work. But I'm tempted to say don't expect miracles, but I think at the moment I notice a lot of miracles happening. So I would just embrace anything that's making sense to you, anything that resonates with you, anything that you feel drawn to do. Don't let your mind get in the way. To your hearts. I know you all have, you know, big open hearts, and really what we're being asked to do amongst everything else is listen to our hearts. The mind has a place, of course, we know this, critical thinking, etc. But don't let all these little doubts creep in, because whatever we do, if we don't do it with confidence, if we allow that doubt in, other things will creep in with it. Other things will come in and literally contaminate any of the ideas, actions, motivations, and even emotions that we're feeling. And I'm sure a lot of you will be able to resonate with that and understand perhaps also what's happening at the moment in terms of this contamination, this mind virus that seems to be infecting all of humanity, really, that are not becoming more aware of it and are not finding ways to protect themselves and build immunity against this virus. So I think, again, that's a topic for further discussion, perhaps not here in the symposium, unless anyone has questions. Let's see. Okay. If this day doesn't work, we can always try again and again, and we'll be waking up more people in the process. That's a comment there from Architect himself, and that's very true. You know, I don't think anything we do in this vein would be a failure, would it? It's again, it's the principle and very much the intention. I was recently staying with some dear friends in France, and there they had planted a tree, an olive tree, for Gaza. Many of us feel unable to help directly, although of course we can find ways to help directly with people suffering in conditions such as those in Gaza. It doesn't mean, however, that we can't do anything. There's actually a lot that we can do right here and now. Planting a tree, and an olive tree in particular, is really symbolic. And not just that, if we do it with intention, if we can actually, through our hearts, connect with these people, connect perhaps not so much with their suffering, I would suggest, but connect really with the beauty of who they are, and honor their courage, and honor their ability to keep living despite all the odds. I think energetically this will also readdress and help to harmonize and balance this terrible destructive path that we appear to be on. That's one suggestion. I'm sure that you can come up with many, many more, but as I say, I saw this recently, and when I went to be with the tree, to stand with the tree, don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting necessarily that we all start hugging trees, although it wouldn't be such a bad idea. But just to connect with the tree and with the spirit of which this had been planted. And it really touched me very, very deeply. So don't think that there's nothing you can do, even in the face of the most awful atrocities that are happening. Really, the question is to also go inside yourself. Don't look for all the solutions out there, because really I find the people I speak to, and perhaps you'll find too, because this is obviously something happening on a very wide scale now, really the answers are also inside us, and coming back to discover who we really are. All of the things that are happening, in a way, can just show us the path back to discover who we really are. And again, that may not seem very practical for this symposium, but nonetheless, I think it's important to at least mention it. And please observe and consider what's actually happening with you right now. What changes are you noticing in yourself, in your sleep patterns, in your dreams? How are you connecting with yourself? I think this is something really essential, and can also help us whenever we're looking at the approaches that we're taking to any of the situations and any of the issues that we want to tackle in our community. Then checking in with ourselves and the kind of state of mind and state of heart, how connected we are, how aligned we are. This can really provide us with a way to really go forward with a wise approach. So again, let's share these feelings and these insights, because this is how, it's a kind of long way to answer Rachel's question there, but this is how we can stand our ground, how we can stand in truth, and how we can effectively transmit any kind of information in a confident, in a calm way. And I think this is probably very helpful and might answer that question a little bit as well. If anyone else has a better or different answer to that. Very important to work within. Derek there, thank you for that. That's awaken your mind. And oh, here's one from Lanrog. It's a question: should we have a full circle day? That's a very nice question, isn't it? Should we have a full circle day? My first thought is we make every day a full circle day. But I think it's anything, again, that gives us more reason to gather, more reason to celebrate, more reason to invite more people in. By that I mean more people to share all these wonderful creative environments that we can make in our location. This is really how to form the fabric of resilience and the fabric of trust and the fabric of relationship, which again, not everyone has access to, but they really, really appreciate it when they do come into contact with this really authentic way of being. So certainly don't underestimate anything you can do in your area. And yes, I'm sure a full circle day would not be a bad idea at all. But as I say, for me, full circle day is every day. Every day I'm going full circle, but I'm certainly not going round and round in circles, I have to say. The energy now that's building up in the circle is, I think, tangible, remarkable. There's an awful lot of people coming in from still from behind the scenes that we've been in contact with, who are now beginning to step in more fully and collaborate and participate with us in all sorts of different ways. So we really are kind of building the ranks, I feel, of something of a warrior class indeed. I'm not sure if everyone will agree with me, and it really doesn't matter, but that's certainly the spirit of what I'm sensing here, is that people are coming in with the skills and the passions that they have. They're aligning themselves with the project and with the principles that are here, and that together we're looking for a point of focus, because this is one of the essential things, is gathering up the energy that we create within the circle, and then finding a point of focus, perhaps more than one point, but certainly not too many, because this is the way that energy is dispersed and weakened. So if we can then agree on a point of focus, we can really begin to move things forward sooner rather than later, which would be great. What else? Let me see who else is here with me. I mean, okay, non-compliant state is just an idea. I believe that if we put our brilliant heads together, perhaps we can build on it and come up with something better. Yes, yes, I'm sure we can always by collaborating come up with different initiatives. Again, let's start making steps. Let's if something occurs to us to do, let's get a few friends together and let's organize this, and then come and present it again at the one of the hangouts. Post on the collaborate section, put something into the meetup section or the event section of the site, and really this is the way to activate people. Perhaps don't wait for the best suggestion. It will come to the surface. Matt's also working on a kind of filtering system that's essentially going to be bringing the most interesting, or the most interesting and the most effective ideas and suggestions, as it were, to the top of the pile, so that we absolutely need people to start moving themselves forward however they can, because it's this action that will draw other people to you. Perhaps it's worth thinking about the idea that we've talked enough. I'm discovering, speaking to and investigating a lot of the tribal people, the primal people, that they actually speak very little. They speak very little, but they do a lot more, because they'll think, but they prefer to do and to perhaps communicate in other ways. And again, I think this is something really worth considering, as I'm running dry here speaking so much, so I'll just pause. You can see I've got a bucket of water here to keep me going. But really, speaking less and doing more, I think that's a really good principle for us. People that are used to research, people that are used to listening to podcasts, people that are used to reading a lot. This is all essential, of course it is. But we've really got to get over this hurdle of not doing. Sometimes not doing is good. I know the Zen practitioners out there, but at this point, going into action really, I think, is going to be what draws people to connect to us more. So yes, definitely full circle project every day. Wherever you go, see if you can talk to someone, talk to a stranger, talk to the shop assistant, talk to those people um, who are trapped in the system. I don't know about you, but I really experience when I speak to people, there's like a release valve. People light up. They like to be seen. They like to be recognized. They're not just cogs in the machine. They're being treated that way, but they're still human. Most of them are still human, even those that have kind of vacated themselves. Still, they're still there. There's still something inside them, and you can help remind them of that by reflecting something that's radiant in yourself. And right now, with so much artificial environment coming in and coming through and literally coming into our blood, into our minds, the more that we can behave, the more that we can act in honest, authentic ways. This seems to be also really the best solution, and we can all do this. We don't have to have anything to do this on a daily basis. So give that one a try, and yes, get back to us and let's see how that one works. Just radiate. Let's see now who else is here. A comment from Matt here also. There in the background as always. A small bit of non-compliance every day will be more effective than a single day. There we go. It's true. And of course we can do both. And others there are agreeing. So why not do both? Why not practice the day of non-compliance or the full circle project day? Practice it every day. And then when we do get to the big celebration or the big day of non-compliance, well, we'll already be we'll already have done the rehearsal. So then we can really begin the show. I'm sure there are ways getting a little bit practical, but back on the practical track, sometimes a bit difficult for me to do, is how we can organize these different events. Again, this is really one thing that both the Collaborate section and now if we're going to be introducing these Hangouts on a more regular basis, we can do together. Come together once a week, and then during the rest of the week, go off and seed the ideas, cultivate the seeds, and watch them blossom. I'm sure these times really, as much as they're infertile in some ways, they're very, very fertile in others. And I'm sure that all these ideas will really bear fruit. Okay, there's, excuse me a moment, I'm going to put the light on because I've lost the sun. Here we are. The sun went down. So back again. And I'm just going to check through a couple of other things that I'd made notes of. Oh, yes. Okay. Coming back to the site for a moment, because Matt, again, been working very hard there to create something which is going to be, I think, very valuable for a number of reasons. And the more that we start to use this, the more valuable we'll see that it is. And that is a gifting and an offering site. If you see on the new Collaborate page that we have, I'm not quite sure everyone has access to that yet, but you will see that there's a bar to the right, which indicates gifts. What does it actually say? Because I don't have it in front of me anymore. I think it's gifts. resources, something like this offers polls and meetups. So it's basically been introduced because, having spoken with Michael Tellinger from the Ubuntu planet.org, and also with various others who have sharing or gifting communities, such as Rafi Oneness from the ICS, really we realized that having a mechanism to help people offer their gifts of time, or of tools that they have, of resources that they have available. This can go into a very easy to fill in box that Matt has created. And also, if there's something that people like would like to receive, if they need help with some gardening project, or if they need help perhaps with an elderly relative, or even just something as simple as they're looking for a step ladder. This is going to be something that you can access just within your local circles. So obviously it doesn't make much sense if someone in Australia is offering you a step ladder and you're in Canada. But I think it will be programmed so that this will become quite a local way of being able to offer time and resources. And so we can actually get the principle of contributionalism, if you like, that Ubuntu is often is based on. We can actually get this moving. We don't have to wait for everything else to fall into place. It's something that we can do now. I've been speaking quite a bit with Rafi. I mentioned Rafi Oneness. He's over in Canada. He's a shoemaker in Canada. And he's someone that, again, has felt very much the need to actually activate. And he's formed something called the intentional intentional sharing community, or no, intentional community sharing, sorry, the ICS. And this was started in his location, but since has spread to other locations. It's very interesting to speak to him, and I will be posting an interview with him, because they've discovered the difficulties with having a true sharing economy or gifting economy at the moment by putting it into action. And what they've done is, at each stage of their journey, they've stopped and they've reflected, and they've changed their tactics. And this will be explained by Rafi. But they've been able to adapt. They haven't presented a solution and then owned it. What they've done is they've put something into motion and they've put it into practice, and they're learning from it. And I think this is really a great demonstration of how we can work together and how we can work in our communities, and also being really honest and being really open about not necessarily having the all-encompassing solution, but again finding these ways to create to heal really the broken relationships that we have with our families and our communities, and often with ourselves as well. So we will be following Rafi. He also now has developed something called a mutual aid co-op, because they did find that people were not participating as much as had been hoped. And so this mutual aid cooperative is more structured, even though it's being done in a kind of playful way, treated as a game. But it does seem to give people the incentive to continue with their gifting and their exchanging. So that's a really interesting dynamic there that we'll be looking at. And again, if you yourselves have ideas, if you have suggestions, if you've come across groups that are busy doing something along these lines that bring community together, please let us know, because we're now starting to interview people in these short call to action interviews, um, where we're trying to get directly direct information from experience. Um, to give you another example, we'll be speaking soon with the Incredible Edible group. Perhaps some of you've come across the Incredible Edibles before. Again, I won't elaborate here, but they're essentially a group of women in Yorkshire, a little village in Yorkshire, who got together around their kitchen table, no doubt with a cup of good Yorkshire tea, a big pot, I should imagine, and said, right, let's do something here. And what's more, let's do it without getting permission. And essentially, they started to grow in their villages, spaces, hedgerows around the clinic of their medical center, some herbs and so on. They took out the plants which were perhaps decorative, or I think they may have been some cactus, I'm not sure now, perhaps not San Pedro, but they were replacing the plants and putting in plants that people could eat. So they're the incredible edibles, and they did so without permission from authorities, but in such a way, with in such a nature, and with such consensus from the village, because they involved the school and I think also the elderly. They involved everyone in their community, and it became such a productive and effective initiative that those in authority really couldn't raise any objections, and I rather think they've even got involved themselves. And this initiative, which we'll be talking about together with perhaps with Mary there, or one of the other people who've been involved since the beginning, this initiative has now spread on a worldwide level to something like 170 groups that we're aware of. So again, this is something that really demonstrates the power of simple collaboration in your community, and of course, really in the background, some level of food security, as well as tackling the issues with education, introducing children to looking at their food source and being really actively involved in growing, picking and eating. I mean, you can imagine all the different spin-offs from this one initiative that began around a kitchen table, and there's few places better than the kitchen table to gather and really hatch these ideas. So there's another example. I'm getting a message to say, unfortunately, still no sign of Max being online. Unreliable internet where he is. Yes, it is, unfortunately. That's the price you pay for for being down in the jungle there. Never mind. I hope this is providing helpful, even without having many resources here or many people to actually talk with. I say it's rather strange talking to myself, but I'm using the power of my imagination to imagine all you beautiful people out there. Here's a question come in. Were you all planning a chat about now? And we're watching the symposium. I think I may be getting perhaps a mixture of chats and messages coming in, so the chats are not all related to the symposium. So I'm really sorry if I might be missing out any of those key questions, but I will go back over them and I will address them, or whoever's here will address them at the next symposium. So I'm just going to see if there's anything else at least significant, because a couple of the other topics that I'd hope to introduce, really I would have liked Max to be here, because they were going to, or they will focus on some ways to approach authority within the community. And we had a couple of examples from Spear in Pittsburgh. Hello, if you're listening, Spear. The dilemma there with the school audit and the kind of chaos that's being caused there due to debts that have been revealed, some quite colossal debts there of something like 167 million dollars. So much money I can hardly say how much it is, and the consequences of the taxpayers being asked to pay for this deficit, and obviously who is to be held accountable for this in this situation. And it's the sort of situation that's obviously is happening already in many places, and will continue to happen, I guess, really, as this whole mess of a economic system is basically crumbling, is being exposed. People who have been robbing and stealing in so many ways, taking advantage of the situation and of others, this is all now coming to light. So I'd really like to use that spirit, if I may, in the clinic, so that we take a look at the details and we ask Max, and no doubt some other very good minds, to come in and look at the best ways that we can actually address this, and perhaps just provide some guidelines, and within the clinic then get feedback from you, so that we can really push the envelope together, and of course all learn from this. Because perhaps if we just have 2 or 3 success stories of this nature, and we can apply the same principles to a range of problems that we face, then we'll feel much more empowered and will be much more effective with the approach that we're taking. So we'll leave that one for the next time that Max can make it along. And I think, unless there are any other burning questions from anyone, I'll just check again the feed here. Unless there are burning questions, I think I will try and wrap that up, because I'm feeling a little lonely here, and because we've also probably addressed at least some of the things that we wanted to bring up. And I'll just say again that we want to introduce the hangout here, the symposium, on a more regular basis. I can see that we'll be able to invite you along to participate. I can see that we have other people that we can invite into a round table, as it were, that will be able to discuss perhaps specific topics. And we'll also be able to news updates, such as I've tried my best to do this evening. Perhaps with practice I'll get better. So bear with me. And also just to mention that there again, the interviews that are coming on, if anyone else would like to be involved in the interview sessions, asking the questions, please let me know. It's not my domain, it's just something that I have access to people, so I'm able to invite them along for these short chats. And I just hope to demonstrate that we can access some really important and motivating and interesting information without necessarily having to spend hours and hours listening on the internet. But hopefully I can reduce the time down to something like 15-minute slots. And to let you know, we have people coming up like Derek Brose over in the States there. I think Philadelphia is his base. He'll be coming on in the next week or so to speak about freedom cells. That's a very interesting concept. Paul Levy, he's coming along to help us identify Wetiko in ourselves as well as in the bigger picture. So that's, I think, absolutely essential that we grasp this and we learn to see this, and also to know how to identify it, how to shine the light on Wetiko, on this this evil spirit, let's call it, but we'll let Paul elaborate on that. But do look at his work, as indeed with Derek, as all these people, they have work online on their websites. Do a bit of homework before listening to the interviews, because the interviews, unless these people are not well known, are really aimed at what do we do now, given that we understand something about what's happening. What are your suggestions for the next steps that we take within the groups, within ourselves as well? And I think that will be really interesting collection there to delve into and to download off the site, and perhaps listen to within your group sometimes, to spark off perhaps a more focused discussion or more focused action as well. Yeah. Oh, and one more thing, there's a series of really good, very detailed, very lively talks with David Whitehead, who's the Truth Warrior at wayofthetruthwarrior.com over in Canada. We have a series of 12 short talks with him, where he will elaborate the warrior archetype, the warrior spirit, and indeed ways to practice being a warrior. And really, we see this as the backbone of the Full Circle project, something that some of us really insisted that we have the landing page, the first page, the home page of the project, of this very evident call to the warrior spirit that's in us, because of course we need everyone in all their roles and all their archetypes and all their glory. But the warrior is really something worthwhile understanding, worthwhile engaging in, and in all kinds of ways integrating this into our lives, into our psyche, and really indeed just allowing it to express itself, because I know that that's in us, and really it's being called upon at the moment. So David, they're a true warrior, experienced and with incredible power of delivery and transmission of what he's learned. This is a series I really encourage you to watch and question. We really want your participation. Come back with questions, suggestions, ideas. We want to make it as practical as possible. So go out and do what David is suggesting, because from experience, I know that this will really empower you. If you're worried about confidence, if you're concerned about your emotional stability, if you're not feeling strong in any way, psychologically, emotionally, or physically, this really is such a great path to follow. So of course, if you have other suggestions, other ways to approach it, please let us know. We want to get you involved. You're just as valuable as anybody else, and we need you. So get back to me. You know how to do it. One more chance. Have I left anything out for this evening? I don't think so. I certainly can't see anything else coming up now. Oh, Matt, let's just see. In future symposiums, I'm thinking we should open the Hangout up more so you guys can join in. What do you think? Well, I think that would be great, because we get this kind of, the more life we can bring into the site. There's a thumbs up there from Carla. Thank you. That's what we'll do then. I already have 2 people who would be coming along to the next symposium, but do let me know. And also I'm sure that we'll be able to find a way to open it up. Yes. And can Derek speak French? Well, of course. Whether anyone will answer you, I don't know, but I'm sure, of course you can. Of course, just speak freely. That's what it's all about. Speak freely and be confident that you're here in a caring family who really has the very best at heart. And so it's been a real pleasure to speak with you, or at least with myself. I know you're out there. I do hope this has been helpful, and I'm only really too sorry that Max was not here to assist me. Well, assist me. I was really here to assist him, but there we go. I'm sure next time around we'll have to have him in a place where he can actually maintain the connection. And I'm not quite sure where that will be over in Pucallpa, but I'm sure there's somewhere that he can stabilize things. So in the meantime, be really well, enjoy Full Circle every day, keep up the practice, keep up the connection, bring, yes, as many people along as you can, with the greatest of respect, obviously. So enjoy life, because that's really what it's about. Okay, see you soon, and thank you. Bye bye. Cheers.